You ever notice that we are all kind of set in our ways? Doesn't matter. We have a set way of doing things. We're always going to do those things. There's very little that's going to change what we do. Well, these readings and this Sunday has to do with that, but in a spiritual way. So the readings for January 21st are interesting, and they seem extremely apocalyptic, somewhat, a little bit. But let's dive into it. Let's just see what it is that exactly is being spoken through these words. In the first reading, we hear about Jonah. But who's Jonah? It was this guy. God called him to profess some words to people. He's like, He tried to run away from God. Bad idea. Don't run away from God. You know where you're going. He knows where you're going. So he got on a boat and tried to sail away from God. And God was like, nope, no Enya today. And he started making storms, and the ship went over, and Jonah got swallowed up by a big fish and sat there for 3 days. And he started proclaiming the word. But this is why he ran. He ran because Jonah knows how merciful our God is. He knows this. This is who our God is. He's a very merciful individual. So he didn't want to go profess this gloom and doom to an area if he knew that God wasn't going to follow through with it, because he's so merciful. Because if that happens, then Jonah would be considered a false prophet. And no one likes a false prophet. Right, Jonah? That's why he ran. But he was there and he proclaimed the word. And basically what ended up happening is that these people had a conversion of heart. They had a conversion of heart. And it says at the bottom of this, or it says at the end of this reading, that God repented from the evil that he was going to commit against them. Now, it seems like a pretty harsh reality. It seems like pretty harsh words for God himself. God who is love. What are we talking about here? What do you mean he repented? Was God able to change? Did God change? St. Jerome says this. Let me read this. He goes, God did not change his purpose, but man changed his actions. And God, from the very beginning, the purpose of him sending Jonah was to be a merciful God. That's why Jonah ran away in the first place. Because he's like, you're not going to follow through, God. You're too loving. Corinth and Nineveh have something very similar, is that they're both being influenced or have been influenced by pagan rituals and pagan activities. They're being infused into the faithful. Those who were supposed to be celibate were not being celibate. And those who were married were being unfaithful. The people in Corinth were acting a fool. Now this specific reading has to do with marriage. But there's a lot more there. There's this need to change. There's this need to have a conversion of heart. There's this need to change one's actions. And the need was threefold. Number one, there was a lot of hostility against the faithful, namely from the pagans. So there was a need to change because there was an impending doom. There was a very hostile environment. Number two, Paul believed that there would be an early second coming of Jesus to the people. Would they have been prepared? And number three, it was all about this general shortness of life. If we were to sum up the second reading, it would literally be summed up in this: that we need to live as we are called to live and detach from the world. And then the gospel, we see those who are doing their thing prior to. They're fishing, they're doing their thing, and God's calling them. And they drop and they follow. If we were to take everything all together, collectively, all the readings, and centralize it into a theme, it would be change of action, change of heart. We have Jonah, who changed his actions. He didn't want to do, but eventually ended up doing. You have those from Nineveh that changed their hearts. In Corinthians, you have Paul challenging people to change their hearts. Let their actions be guided by their detachment from all of it and focus on God. And in the gospel, you have individuals who are literally detaching themselves from family, detaching themselves from their way of life to follow someone who they have been hoping for. So when you read these readings, take that into consideration and insert yourself in this. How are you, Jonah? Or maybe how are you those in Nineveh? Are you those in Corinth that aren't living what you're called to live? Are you not understanding that there is more to this life? Is Paul talking to you? Or are you in agreement with Paul? Put yourself in the gospel. Can you be Simon or Andrew? Can you drop everything and follow Jesus? Can you be the sons of Zebedee? Can you drop everything and follow? This is about change of action. This is about change of heart. So during this Sunday's readings, make that something that you focus on, reflect on, pray on, and hopefully it'll guide you to changing, especially during this new year. God bless you guys. Thank you for tuning in.